I don't want this one into. See if I put this live, this is my dance. It's not 5%.
Oh, so you don't have enough for me.
No. So I'm gonna save this one and put it on Facebook.
Okay, then one for YouTube or one for Facebook.
Yeah, but I really wanted to use this one for the YouTube.
That's what you all be agree.
Yeah, but it's alright. Yes, greetings everyone. We shall begin in a moment, okay? One love and respect to everybody. Give thanks. Do you all know how to get up to the high end?
Oh, you all got that? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but this is fine. It's okay. I try to reach this one.
And that what?
No, I try to reach an exclamation point. I can't seem to reach it on the screen. Does like anyone know how to this one?
Like one is going to point out to the father.
Oh, that's not it. That's crazy. Anyway, that's fine. That's cool. That's cool. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and begin. I'm gonna put this in. Great, fantastic. So sorry for being at least 2 to 3 minutes late, but we always try to do this, and we always try to begin on time. But as usual, before we begin, we want to have a prayer. So please, those of you that are there, if you want to get in your meditation, we're about to have a prayer before we begin. The total Ital part six. Okay. This is a wonderful, wonderful webinar that we are continuing as promised every 21 days. This is Nayora, and behind of me I have Empress Omega, Sister Omega. I have Rastafari the Caribbean Herbalist, and also Sister Jeanette. Okay, and so we shall begin within the next 2 to 3 minutes. But before we begin, we want to begin with a prayer from Rastafari the Caribbean Herbalist, so we can get into our discussion this evening. Okay, give thanks. One love.
No, the mic is on the computer. Yes, we give thanks to the Most High for bringing us here together real spontaneously in this year time. With the friends, brothers and sisters here to get together. Our brother Gary, we give thanks for you. Our sister Jeanette, we give thanks for you. Our sister Charisma, we give thanks for you. Nayora, and to the people listening to us, we also give thanks that the Most High inspires us to speak the truth to the people who are listening, to share crucial information about the family, because the family is the foundation of the nation. So we give thanks all the time for our breath, for the sun, the moon, and the stars, and for good living, to open our eyes to all the negative things that we don't need to know, and to strengthen us with the good things that we shall make, we shall put in our family, with our family, for our family, to thrive in this time. So again, we give thanks to the Most High. Yeah.
So, wonderful people, those of you tuning in, we shall begin, the webinar, and we will fill it. It's going to be from 7 to 9 p.m. And the topic of discussion this evening is male and female relationships and how we can improve them. Once again, male and female relationships and how we can improve them. So the panel that we have here today will actually begin the discussion, and I will chair, I will ask the questions, and I will actually try to get feedback. Remember, this is a roundtable webinar, and I will try to get feedback from the sisters here. So before we begin, I would like for each person sitting on the panel to say their name and their occupation and how they feel with their experience they could contribute to such a topic or such a form of reasoning in terms of male and female relationships. So I will let each person here introduce themselves and let them know what your accolades are, and let them know just what you do for a living, and how you feel about the African family.
Hey, bless the love. My name is Empress Charisma, also known as Ital Omega and Elia Shaddai. Many names I know, but different names for different experiences. I am a mother, I am a chef, baker, teacher, an emotional therapist, and a behavioral analyst. So what I plan to bring to this is for us to understand the emotional inclinations that could cause us to have either toxic or healthy relationships, so that we may be able to recognize these things within ourselves and be able to first build ourselves before we get in any union with anyone.
Yes, well, male and female relationships, that has to do with the family. The family is the foundation of the society. So the nation is built by many great families that are here and there all over the creation. And so there is a code of conduct relating to families and the things that we can do to keep the families together. I myself am a family man, and I came from a family. My parents were married for over 60 years. I'm married now for over 40 years. So I bring some experience, and we look forward to sharing the information about folks who seem to be different to us men, but really crucial to us. We can't do without them. They can't do without us. We just compatible beings, and we are the foundation, as you say, of the family. So I will expound on it as best as I can as we go along. So great to be here. I'm a herbalist. I'm a natural healer. Been doing natural healing for over 40 years. I live here in St. Thomas, healing the people, and I do endless work all over the Caribbean. From Barbados to Puerto Rico. So it's really a great vibe to continue to share information with my people right here on Nayora TV. name and what you do and the organization you're a part of.
My name is Jeanette John Baptist. I am a community outreach specialist and I work with a non-profit agency called the Virgin Islands Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Council. I spend a lot of time talking, talking about healthy relationships, talking about sexual assault, talking about domestic violence, talking about self-esteem, how to build our self-esteem. And we know that self-esteem is important because if you don't have a high self-esteem, you can be led hither and thither by anybody. You believe everything people say because you're out there you're looking for love, you're looking for somebody to tell you who you are. And there are a lot of unscrupulous people out there who will take advantage of you. So for a healthy relationship, one of the basic things you must have is a healthy self-esteem. Um, why am I we need to talk about healthy relationships because the majority of us grew up in unhealthy relationships. Our parents fight in front of us, they cuss in front of us, they tell us negative things, and we don't see healthy relationships being displayed around us. So we grew up thinking that unhealthy relationships are normal, and they're not.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gary James. I work in the events industry as a lighting technician, as well as a community activist. I am thankful to be here with these wonderful people on this panel, discussing something that's really important in our community, the dynamics between men and women, even more importantly, men and women in the African community, our African community. With these dynamics that are somewhat, as Sister Janet just mentioned, a lot of which we were brought up thinking that was normal was actually really toxic. And that is a generational thing that has to be broken because, as I said, the man and woman dynamics leads to family. And if the relationships are toxic between men and women, the family is actually going to be toxic. And families through generations maintains a cycle. So I'm glad to be here to share my experiences and what I've learned to bring this to this wonderful discussion. Okay, thanks.
Yes, fantastic. Fantastic, fantastic. So this is excellent. So we have some very experienced panel. We have a panel that can really dive into how we can improve such a structure, the most important structure, which is the structure of family. Because there's a lot of us within the Black community going through a lot. Many people I know within the Black community, even myself, as a father and having children, there are issues that came up in certain, relationships and so on and so forth. So we are here to discuss this in ways that we can improve that. So I will share, the discussion and I will ask questions to the people on the panel so that we can get a clear understanding as to what does it mean to be in a relationship and ways that we can improve them. So the first question that I have for the panel, which actually that I want to ask is, what does being in a relationship mean, essentially? When you say you are in a relationship, what does that mean to you as far as your understanding?
A relationship is a partnership. It is a mutual understanding between two souls that are going to live in this life together and do whatever it takes to have a very balanced union to create not only life, but to create what God has destined for us in this life. Many times we always consider what Babylon has told us, wherein, the feminine has to rule, or you don't need one another. I don't need that man. I don't need that woman. I'm getting along just fine. But there's a reason we're both created together. We're both made to live this life together in a partnership. in a divine union that was set from the beginning of our creation.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, so we here, and our purpose is to serve the Most High. So a relationship usually very often brings children, which gives you the opportunity to teach yourself how to be of service to humanity. Because you have children that you're growing up with. Your job now is to nurture those children, you know. So as a man, I feel I have to give my queen the kind of environment that would allow her to nurture her family, because she has traits that we don't have in terms of nurturing. So as a man, I want to provide and I want to protect. Now they're gonna have other things that I might want to do too, but my priority is to provide for my family and to protect. Because if there is no balance in this mundane world, we're living in a world, we're living in a house, some of us, we own a house, some of us, most of us rent a house. And that in itself is a stress, you know. So as a man, I have to understand what my priorities are, because I have found it necessary to take on a woman and to create a family. So a family is not built just from thin air. So we have to have a determination now as a family to grow together. I remember years ago, I like to write things and put it all in the house, important things. So what I wrote and put on the wall is, we shall struggle together until we reach the top. So then the question is, what is the top? So the top is to serve the Most High. And the little ones in the house, you have to serve them first. You have to give them food to eat. You have to give them good food to eat, good drink to eat. You have to take them to exercise. And you have to spend time with your partner. Because if you say you love your partner, my definition of love is that love is an action. So you and your empress have to do things together. You and your kingman have to do things together. Because how can you say that you love the woman and you refuse to spend time with her? And sister, how can you say that you love the man without spending time with him? Now, in this mundane world as we live in now, you know, before it used to be the man working and the woman depending on the man working. But things have changed. Now it takes two to work most of the time, because we find ourselves in a predicament where we don't have much resources. And this has been systematically planned from a long time. And then families divided, because very often now, the woman who takes more time to educate herself ends up making more money than the man. Now, nothing is wrong with that, but many men don't like that. So there is the ego part that we have to tame. Because if a woman is making a lot of money, she is also part of your family. Well, I don't know how people do things, but with my experience, we do things together. So if I'm making $600 a month and she making $600 a month, we put it together and we have $1,200. Some people don't work it so. Some people have their own account. Mister, I want to have my own account. Okay, again, nothing is wrong with that, but it has to be an equal sharing, you know. In terms of who control the money is another issue, because some brothers don't want the woman to have no money, and vice versa. Some women want to be the ones controlling the money. Now, again, we have to be flexible now. If the woman is the accountant and she knows how to budget, why can't she control the money? But at the same time, the woman have to understand, you're not with a husband and you have a bank account together and suddenly the bank account empty. So we have to look at the thing in a real way, you know, because this is a serious thing. You know, I know man who experienced those things. And they decided, tell me plain out to counsel them out of it, brother, is homicide, you know. If I meet her, it's kill like killing her, you know, because she go with all the money. And it happened in the other way too. Some man must take all their wife money and bring it to another woman. That is a big problem. I remember working years ago. At that time, I used to be making $7.50 an hour. And on the Friday, this man who had the same birthday with me say, Rastafari, what we doing, man? We never liming on the weekend. So I look at him and I say, lime where? He said, man, you can't take a lime, man. I said, no. He said, Rastafari, what you doing with the money? I said, bringing the money to the woman. He looked at me. He said, oh, it can't be all Rastafari. I say, all the money. Because when I have to check how much for rent and how much for food and how much for lights, if I have to go to spree, just blow that money, I'm going to be embarrassed. So some people like to be embarrassed, but I can't tell this woman that you and me going to do this thing together. And then just go and gamble the woman money or just go and blow the woman money drinking what? Drinking some beer, drinking some Hennessy, something devil soup to put in my body to cause me to think that I'm Superman. And I have to be vexed with this woman instead of loving her. So I'm just saying, the family gives you the opportunity to raise some children so that you can get into the selfless mode, so that you could have that practice to continue that genuine service to humanity as we go along. So your partner ought to be somebody to help you grow. So you have to know what kind of partner you're choosing. You can't just choose somebody because they find you looking nice, because their eyes blue, because they like red clothes. You know, some people have some funny choices for some funny reasons. So you have to know you're looking for somebody who wants to serve Jah like you. Because we're part of a tribe. So we also be talking about the family, the man and the woman and the children. But we also have to always think of the concept of living in a tribe. So there is a family. There is a family beyond just the couple people at home. Because many families make a nation. So as responsible as you are for the people at home, is as responsible as you're supposed to be for the people who are living within your tribe, within your group, within your movement. So that's what I have to say for now.
So, Sister Janet, this is a wonderful webinar, man. We have begun, man. The elder is keeping it real. It's great. So, Sister Janet, tell me, as far as you know, what when you say you're a man and a woman are in a relationship, could you discuss or elaborate on that as to what you feel that means specifically?
Okay. A relationship is a connection between two or more people. We have different types of relationships. We have sibling relationships. We have relationships with our parents. We have relationships with our friends. We have relationships with our classmates. And then we have romantic relationships. Now, for a romantic relationship to be, so that would be two people who decided they're into each other, right? They want to spend time together, they like each other, and eventually they find themselves in a romantic relationship. We can have a healthy relationship or an unhealthy relationship. A healthy relationship has mutual respect. It has trust. It has communication, open communication. It has loyalty. It has common interests. We must have something in common. It also has independence. I shouldn't have to spend all of my time with you. If I have my friends, I shouldn't have to give up my friends because I'm in a relationship with you. We should each still have our mutual interests. We do stuff that we like individually with our friends, but we spend time together. We do things that we like. We spend time together. Um, Open communication. I should be able to say what I like and what I don't like. You should be able to say what you like and what you don't like. We also have to be assertive. No, I didn't say aggressive. I said assertive. Assertive is knowing what you want and having the confidence to tell the other person what it is. Assertiveness also means that you listen to the other person. They get a chance to talk. Another thing is that I'm sorry, what's your name again? Gary, or Ras Bobby, or you, Nigel, you're not responsible for my happiness. A lot of us, we put that on the person we're with, that they must make us happy. No, I'm responsible for my happiness. You're responsible for your happiness. Neediness, forget about it. Who likes a needy woman? Who likes a needy man? I don't. We should, and like I said, mutual respect, trust. Trust is something that's in very, very short supply in our community. I spend a lot of time in the schools, and the kids tell me that all the time. They don't trust nobody. They don't have friends. But in order to have a healthy relationship, you have to have trust. I should be able to know what it is. Somebody come and tell me something, right? I should be able to think and say, nah, that ain't true. Because I trust that person. It might be true, but because I trust you, I'm not going to believe what that person can come to tell me. Honesty, short supply again. But you can't have a good, healthy relationship if you don't have honesty. Honesty is important. Honesty builds trust and it also strengthens a relationship. Compromise. Compromise. I ain't lying to tell you, I'm not married today because I hated compromise. I'm serious. I felt like I was always the one giving in. I was always the one giving in, like the other person always taking. But we have to learn to compromise in a healthy relationship. I shouldn't think that I always have to get what I want. You know, we mediate. We have to learn to what mediate. What's the word I'm looking for? Like sit down and negotiate. Negotiate. We have to learn to negotiate. And again, I said good communication, individuality. Even though I'm with you, I'm still who I am. I shouldn't have to change. Nobody should have to change nobody. I change because I see the need to change. No, but seriously, you fall in love with me the way I am. Why you want to change me? Why you want me to become who you want? No, I see that I have this, something in order to strengthen our relationship. I see that there's something I need to do. Let me do it. Let me do it. I shouldn't have to do the thing. Anger control. we have to learn to bite our tongue. Sometimes you feel like you're biting your tongue too often, right? But think before you speak. And if you feel walk away before you say something that you're going to regret later. Walk away, count to 10, and then come back. And then the two of us will sit down and we discuss. We discuss. We don't call each other names. We don't insult each other. We deal with the matter at hand. And we don't go back to what happened 6 months ago, or a year ago, or 6 years ago. No, we dealt with it then, leave it in the past. We're dealing with this one topic, this one issue that we have, one issue at a time. And in every time we're going to learn, in every time we're going to come to a conclusion that is beneficial to the both of us. Sometimes we just have to learn to live and fight another way. You know what I mean? Come back to it another way.
Yeah, man. Excellent. So, Brother Gary, as far as when you speak about relationship, what exactly does that mean to you, the word relationship?
For me, a relationship is a healthy union between a man and a woman that comprises or consists of love, support, nurturing. I have to also use some of the words that some of these distinguished people on this panel have used as independence. And to touch on independence and what Sister Jeanette said about happiness, a lot of people, you will hear, it's almost cliches for somebody to say, tell me what you want me to tell, what would you want me to do to make you happy? How can I make you happy? How does, I've heard that so many times. And I say it's cliche because we hear people say it, you hear it in songs, you hear it in the movie, but in order for a relationship to have 100%, each person have to be 100%. And if each person is 100%, their independent happiness has to be based on them providing that for themselves. Because if you're 50-50 and one is 100, one is given more than the other, which leads to a lack of inequality, which will affect independence, which will stagnate the relationship because there will be frustration in one part for giving and taking so much, giving more and receiving a little bit less. But I really just wanted to touch on that 100% because a lot of us are hoping that that person makes us happy. Well, that person can help to continue to make you and the whole relationship happy, but they have to come into it with a happiness themselves. They have to be able to love themselves, nurture themselves, so that they can nurture and love their partner and vice versa, so that that energy becomes reciprocated. So for me, when it talks about that brings up equality. So that means that both partners are sharing equally in this situation. Both partners are sharing because each of them independently are happy, have made themselves happy. I'm not saying perfect. Perfect doesn't mean happy. Happy means happy. In this life, us generally being happy doesn't mean that we're going to go some stumbling blocks in life, of course. But for me, the whole thing is for each of them to be a whole person so that they can come together to have a dynamic and have a wonderful, sustaining relationship.
Excellent. So we've gotten, the answers from everyone on this panel. Sister Queen Omega, Empress Omega, Ras Bobby the Caribbean Herbalist, Sister Janet, and also Brother Gary, all shared with you what it means, according to them, to be in a relationship and how important that is. What I want to say is that every 45 minutes we'll be taking a break. So in the next, I would say 10 to 15 minutes, we'll take one break. Then we will return for the second, and then we'll have a third part of the webinar. So in about 10 to 15 minutes, we will take a break. But my next question to the panel is this. how can two people who have two different views on life, or you would say, I wouldn't say life, but how can people who have two spiritual paths or different paths come together and make it work, or two religious paths? How can two people with two religious paths or spiritual paths come together and make a relationship work? Starting with Mr. Queen Omega. There's some serious questions here for the panel, right? This is the question? How can two people who each have a different religious background or spiritual way, how can they make a relationship work for the long run?
First thing you have to identify is what you have in common. Every religious background has commonality in different places. Look at the commonalities and maximize on those conversations. Maximize on what you admire most about the other's belief system. Do not look at the faults of it, because that will lead to a debate that's unnecessary. At the end of the day, the different spiritual paths are all leading down the same road with the very same concept. You just call a different name than I do. You may have a different ritual or tradition than I do. But at the end of the day, once we can offer that kind of mutual respect to one another, we can be able to have a relationship that is based upon the same honesty, based upon the same trust, because I trust you to honor my belief system. I trust you to protect my belief system, and I will protect yours. So no one can come against us, even if we have differences in opinion. I trust you to not let anything that is said when we're having a discussion cause a break in the relationship because we share different values. It's easier said than done, because we've been given so many different visuals as to how people will disagree instead of agree in relationships. So we just look for the different things to make us disagree. But if you can find that common ground, not only with one another, but with self, you can be able to have an excellent relationship. You must know yourself. You must take the time to be intimate with your partner. And intimate does not mean to be having intercourse with the person. Intimate is into me, you see intimacy, you see into me, and I see into you. So I see past your pain. I see past everything else, because I see your soul, the soul that has been hurt, that has been guided to the path that you're on. And it is not my place to knock your belief system, because somewhere along the line that saved you, and someone along the line mine saved me. So as long as we can understand that concept, we can have a very flourishing and functional relationship.
Excellent, excellent. So that, as far as you see it, how could two people who have two different paths come together and make it work in a relationship?
Well, very often the paths seem to be different, but it's really the same path. At the same time, it's about what is it that you're doing together. Because a sister should be able to use her education to create like some cash cow relating to her education. And if a man is an overstanding man, he should want to help his queen achieve the things that she wants to achieve. But again, it has to be an upful thing. Once the thing is an upful thing, it would just seem to be different, but it's really the same. His Majesty says so. In terms of spirituality, we are all kinsmen. We are all the same, because it's just a lot of different names for the same creator. You see? So as me, if I'm a herbalist, my queen probably will want to help me be the herbalist too. But she would also want to do what she wants to do if she wants to do something else also. So I think each other, once you help each other in terms of your daily vocations, because you might have a belief system, and if your belief system is not consistent with helping others, it's not real. But if two of our belief system relates to helping others, you might call one Allah and you might call one Yahweh. But if you know it's one creator with just plenty names, what is the difference?
So in terms of the relationship and the different philosophy, if what we're doing with each other helps us to grow together, help us to be more humble, again the virtues as we talked about the last time, help us to be more kind, teaches us faith. So two of us could have goals together. Oh, you doing your vocation, I doing mine. The profits that we make out of it, we put it together, and what is common with us is that we build in a house together. So we can do it together with our spouse, whatever she is doing, or our spouse can do whatever with us, whatever we're doing. At the same time, a kingman and his queen can have projects that they can also do other than their own individual vocations. But I think it's about a support system. We should support each other in whatever we do, because whatever we choose to do within the tribe ought to be to serve the Creator through serving those in the tribe, first and foremost. And then that teaches you how other people, other than those within your tribe, you have to treat the same way. Because you just might see it's a different thing, but it's really another great human being there with you, who you have to nurture also. So I just think it has to do with the focus, where our focus is in terms of the family and what we're doing together.
Excellent, excellent. You know, and we move along. You know, and I'm encouraging those of you that are watching the live to actually leave questions in the live chat if you would like some questions to be answered, things you need clarity on. I thank all of you, you know, that are actually listening at this moment and feel that this is important to tune into. You know, thank those of you. I really appreciate y'all. And this is Total Ital webinar continuing as promised every 21 days. And we shall have the next webinar actually 21 days from now. So on the 24th, we shall have another webinar again. So let's keep the ball rolling. So Sister Janet, how can two people who have different religious backgrounds or spiritual paths come together and make a relationship work? Because usually that's the case.
The Bible says the man is the head of the house. And so that makes him responsible for the child, whatever children they have, for their spiritual growth. But a lot of times we find that it's the women who have that job, because the men, they fall asleep on the job. They can both decide. If some, like I said, some men, they might not care, you know, so then it makes it easy. The woman takes the lead. But if they can sit down and decide, they might have totally different views, because they might have totally different views. And they can decide on how to raise their kids religiously, which religious path the child is going to take, who's going to be responsible for giving that child a spiritual leading. That's the best I can do.
Okay, cool. Brother Gary, how can two people who have two different spiritual paths or religious background work together in a relationship?
What's come to my mind when you ask the question would be independence, support, and compromise. Independence because they have their own different religious worldview, which is independently their own and their own self-expression as well. It's part of who they are. Now, that lends itself that it could be a cultural difference within that independence, within that differing religious belief that they both might have. But if if the relationship is a relationship that's a healthy one, that has a stable grounding, then the word support should be automatically there within a relationship, that they both support each other within their different religious views, and not argue about who's right, who is wrong, because at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure with any healthy relationship, they'd rather be happy than right. But with the support of each other, supporting each other up there, but let's say one religion is Islam, and the other one is Rastafarianism. Well, and like what Bobby said, that there may be a commonality between the two. And the biggest thing about that, whether or not there is a commonality, even though there is the support. And like Empress Omega said, the trust. Those without trust, there can be no support. So that there's no support system within these two different religious views that you may have. The last word that came to my mind was compromise. With supporting each other, there is a compromise, there is a give and take. And even within the compromise, there may be that great opportunity for them to learn a little bit, not just about each other, but that different religion that they don't know about. Which, like I said in the very beginning, is what helped make that person who he or she is that you're dealing with. So those are the three words that just stuck out in my mind in terms of differing religious views.
Yeah, but just a comment there, though. To look at it on another level, though, I personally feel that it would be more ideal for two people of the same persuasion to come together. So that is the other side of the coin. Now, sometimes it happens otherwise, because I know this brother who is a Seventh-day Adventist, and his wife is a Catholic. And he tells me his wife good, and his wife treating him as good as anybody else that he ever met. And because she is Catholic, he ain't living her. You see where I'm coming from? Now, that is just on a denominational level. But I truly feel that one who is a Muslim versus the one who is a Christian versus one who is a Rasta can genuinely love each other. And as my brother was saying, if Muslims say pray 5 times, and Christianity will say, okay, do your devotions in the morning and before you sleep. So why not compromise and just pray with the man 5 times? You know what I mean? Because it's pray we pray, so we pray long. So that is when you say compromise. It's love.
So fantastic. So let me just repeat what has been said. It says that if there's respect in the household, if people respect each other, and they live within the same principles that encompass any spiritual path or religious role, at least those principles should actually be the foundation of any spiritual role, because it's goodness and it's love we're dealing with. So people could love each other and still accept or respect the differences. I think the problem comes in when they feel it's supposed to be this way, or else it's this or that, or it's this or that. Because if you're a Catholic and then someone else is a Rastafarian, I'm sure that there will be some kind of clash there somewhere in terms of what one believes and so on and so forth. So it is also said that it's a good thing when you are with someone who understands your way of life. And if you're a cultural person, it's good to be with cultural people. If you're a 7-day, it's probably better that you're with a 7-day Adventist, because it's a similar vibe. It's a commonality, which would create less toxic relations within the household. So great. So what we're going to do right now, for those of you tuning in, thank you. We have a great listening audience at the moment, and then we also have we have some beautiful love from Jamaica, from Atlanta, from the Virgin Islands, from Florida, etc. And we thank you all. So we're going to take a quick break. Please keep it tuned in. If there are any questions you want to ask, please put it in the live chat, and we shall continue with the webinar. This is a very great discussion. It's all about male and female relationships and how we can improve them. All right, so we'll take a 2 to 3 minute break and we shall return. Okay.
Every 21 days.
You must invite me again, man. I'm enjoying it.
You know, the world is watching. Yeah.
It's still live.
Okay.
It's still live. I'm sorry.
You're a name. Locally. Locally, real estate.
Already done today. Sometime when it's already I was invited for listening. We had a textbook. So when I opened the textbook, I see some white man. But I'm just showing them other members. I'm reading. I want to the ball on that page and everybody laughing. So Chris put on the book, what happened? Chris man. Yes, you know what happened. So nobody answered. Continue reading. Showing them again and they're laughing at me. Then they realize it's me. You know how he swing the book. He swing the book at me. I keep on running. He said, Claude, go and don't come back. Yeah, man. Thank you, Father.
This is your continue.
This is yours?
Yeah.
This is yours?
Yes. Okay, so we're back. So we are back. We shall continue this great, wonderful discussion we are having in terms of male-female relationships, which is excellent. So, so as we continue, first of all, once again, in our panel, we have Sister Omega, we have Rastafari Caribbean Herbalist, we have Sister Jeanette, right? And then we also have Brother Gary, and we're continuing this discussion right now. And so, again, this is all about male and female relationships and how can we improve them. Okay, I'm sure that we've all been in relationships and we know about the ups and downs of relationships, but we want to better ourselves as human beings, and we want to have a great experience on earth. And usually we want to have a great experience with the person that's in our life, the person that is bringing forth our children, preparing our meals in the house with us. And we always want things to run smoothly. So here we are once again, and I shall continue the discussion. My question is, what is the reason for all of these broken homes that we've seen within our community? What is the reason for broken homes that we see within the community? And how can we try to make these homes whole again? Because a lot of females are actually raising children. So how can we make this better? And what's happening? Why is this happening?
Okay, well, I would like to get to an ancient cause. Might not be very ancient, but it's old enough. I want to take you back to 1712. back in Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia, with Brother William Lynch here, when he decided that he wanted to teach everybody up in the south of there how to make a slave. One of the main things that he said was that we're going to break the image of the nigger man. Okay, so the first thing that he did was tie up our brother, one hand, 1 foot to one horse over here, one hand, 1 foot to another horse over here, in front of everybody. You're talking women, children, and weaker males. This brother was the strongest male, the one that was just riding up and not taking nothing from nobody. Now they put tar on him, feather him, set him on fire, and then whip the horses to make them run in the two separate directions in front of everybody to show you that if we could do this to your strongest man, imagine what we could do to you. And thus began the erosion of our masculine image in our mind as women, because that image was destroyed. It destroyed their confidence and it destroyed our protection. Now they focused on us next, stating, okay, now we're going to teach her how we want her to raise the children. We're going to train the boys to be kind of submissive underneath mommy. And mommy's going to be like, listen, don't rise up and don't do anything stupid because this was what happened to you. So just kind of take it easy. Don't be too out there, too rough and too rumble, and just calm down. And then now you training your little girls to be Miss Independent because the brother ain't going to stand up for you. I done seen what they did to this man here. Believe you me, anybody else to come after he ain't nothing. So that erosion began from there. And then it became genetic because you're looking at 400 plus years of this psychological mindset being embedded from slave plantation to slave plantation to slave plantation. And let's fast forward to modern day. We're now dealing with the social media telling us how Black relationships are supposed to run where the man is not in the house. It's intentional why movies portray us in the hood and the man them not in the house. They either getting killed, they're in jail, they are pastor, or they are disaster. This is the image that they're giving us of our Black male. If he is anybody of standard, he's with a white woman. So now we are looking at that erosion began in the home from that time, and it generationally passed down. Now here we are with this mindset because of our foreparents. Now I am a recovering from a traumatic childhood. It's not like I was beaten with a whip or anything like that, but emotionally traumatized. And that was because my mom was emotionally traumatized. That's all she knew to show me. So because of that, I started to raise my children in that light until a light bulb hit. Like, no. I'm seeing a pattern here. Something is not adding up. Now, when I look back in the lineage, I'm seeing, but this is from my grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, with the same attitude, the same behaviors, and the same motive. You're not going to have a man in the house. By the time you're done with all your attitude, all your over-independence, you're not going to have a brother around you, period. And then now you're going to talk about, man ain't nothing, but woman, do you know yourself? If you don't know yourself, the brother is not going to know you. And man, if you don't know yourself, you're not going to know that woman. So at the end of the day, that breakdown came from us not knowing ourselves. I'm not saying that we use it as a crutch, but we have to understand the originations of this. And by getting to the root of that tree, you can uproot it instead of trimming every leaf. This brother don't look out for me. This woman don't know how to do this. This child don't listen to me. Instead of trimming the leaves, pardon me, of that relationship, you get to uproot the whole tree and realize the whole tree is messed up. So you plant a new seed, and that's what our responsibility is. As the ones that understand what is going on, we are the ones that have to change the dynamic to recreate that proper home structure. As long as we are in a broken sense of self, we cannot have a whole home. So that's what I did in a nutshell.
So once again, great answer. I think that was exceptional. Once again, Daddy, how, basically, why is there an imbalance in terms of the household, in terms of a female being there raising the children only? What is the issue? How can we?
Yes, it's thousands of years of systematic destruction of the Black family. We're more existing than living in any kind of cultural life right now. we're living a life which is basically the remnants of slavery. So slavery could only have been realized if there was the breaking up of the black family. When black people were living in Africa, there was a mode of operation that they existed by, a rites of passage. They taught a child from small how to become man, how to become woman. There was a structure. Men was involved in a tribe, women was involved, the children were there. The mothers were in charge of the girls and the boys, from 1 to 7, generally speaking. After 7, the father would take care of the boys. The mothers or other females take care of the girls. And they keep teaching them the things that the little children were strong in. There was a structure. There was a culture. When after black people were enslaved, black men were used as studs to have children with black women, to have big black slaves, who was the property of the slave master. So out of that, that is what we're living up to today. There is no culture, there is no structure, there is no rites of passage. People just living like crazy. And what has substituted for this? The religion has substituted for this. So there is hardly spiritual living anymore. In Dominica, our spiritual levity, we used to call it kudme. So if you had 20 men living in a certain geographical area in Dominica, on a given Sunday or Saturday, all those men would come together to work on one plantation. You know, certain ceremonies, they would beat their drum and sing songs together. Very often on a Sunday, those people would beat their drums, playing their belly, having their African festivities. Yeah, that was like a little glimpse of our culture. So now you find now, even in these modern times, you hardly have children coming out of a family. I grew up in a family with my mother and father. My mother and father were married for 60 years. I am married to my wife for 40 years right now. You hardly find people who want to get married right now. And then very often a mother has children with different men. Now, we're not saying that having children with different men makes you less than somebody else. But this is happening because there is this imbalance in my upbringing, and I know Jeanette can say the same thing. You hardly used to hear about divorce, you know. Nobody used to divorce, you know. So things have changed, and in many ways things have gotten worse, and in many ways things have gotten better. So what I feel is that we have to re-educate ourselves as to how a righteous social structure, African social structure was set up. We hear about the bifall of Senegal. It's a certain area in Senegal, all the women in that area are virgins. So when those men go and find their woman, they find a virgin. So I'm saying now, we have traversed this road. We've reached a certain point. Certain things have happened to us. We cannot continue to make excuses. Now is the time. All the information is there. Even if I know, it's easier said than done, because a lot of emotional damage has been done. But how do we deal with the emotional damage that has been done? It is our responsibility to ensure that we seek the help to transform ourselves into higher beings. Because the aspect of life, my brothers and sisters, is for us to become more civilized as we go along. So when we meet a sister, we want to help her become more civilized. And when a sister meets us, she also wants to get us more civilized. But our relationship cannot be in a dictatorial way. Because this woman is an entity. You have to show her love. It's about love. So why the vexation? We know where the vexation comes from. That's why people say, black people killing each other in the ghetto. The people killing each other in the ghetto because everybody, when I say everybody, quote unquote, everybody in the ghetto vexed. So if a man vexed in the ghetto, he ain't going in the other neighborhood to kill somebody in the other neighborhood. It's where everybody vexed, they're killing each other. What is the cause of the vexation? The cause of the vexation very often is poverty. The cause of the vexation is very often people grow up to be farmers and they cannot farm because they have no land. So again, you see the extent of the poverty. So when one feels broken on the inside, they act it out. So the vibe is it now, let us create a support system among each other, among Rasta people, among Christian people, among Muslim people. We all black people from one nation. From one reality, what is happening with Black Lives Matter and this movement and this black revolution in the States indicates to us that they all see us as the same thing. So irrespective to what seems to be different, our life is about becoming righteous. So let us find out what it is, what are the tools that we need to become more righteous, to become more peaceful, to become more kind, to become more loving. Again, it's an action. It's not just to talk it, but to heal the broken hearts. And that is where now the female energy comes in. Because the female energy is the nurturing energy. The male energy now very often is the argumentative energy. And so let us balance the leadership of the male and the creativity of the woman to create that relationship that our children would draw from and become better people. Because my children ought to be better than me, and their children ought to be better than them. And as we go along, we progress. Here they are.
Yeah, man. So, hey, as we move along, this is very critical. I'm happy that we're speaking about these things because I know that those of you tuning in, those of you listening, there's some questions. I see Sister Damali is asking, yes, what are the next steps? What are we going to do to fix it? So once again, every time there's a question, all four doesn't have to answer. I mean, ask one question to two, and then so on and so forth. So, question, right? What are some of the great traits or some of the habits that we need to execute in a relationship to make a relationship work or to improve a relationship? What are some of the traits that we need to actually acquire or some of the traits that we need to put in the forefront so that a relationship works out?
Is it my turn?
Yes, your turn.
When I started, I talked about self-esteem. Self-esteem is very, very important. And self-esteem, we grow self-esteem from the time we're in high. Our parents, our teachers, the people in our community, they help build our self-esteem. They help kill our self-esteem. Because if all you're hearing, you're stupid, you're going to be like your father, you're going to end up in jail. I've actually heard teachers tell that to children. You're going to end up in jail.
How can a child escape that if there is people around them telling them these things? What if there's a child tuning in right now, how can a child escape that experience? Or build their self-esteem if they don't really have the people around them to help to build?
It's hard. It's really hard, especially for a child. but it can be done. You have to seek out the people who are nurturing you, the people who are telling you good things about yourself. But being a child, most of the time, you hear the negatives, and you hear the negatives, and you hear the negatives, and what happens? They get stuck in here.
A lot of children hear a lot of the negatives from their parents.
From their parents.
So that's why it's important for us, those that have the conscious mind, it's good to reach out to the children.
Yes.
And see what's going on with them, because it takes a nation. So I don't think we should just leave it upon a child's parents to raise them. If we could impart those same good words upon a child to help them, that should be a boost as well.
Okay, well, like I said, I spend a lot of time in the schools, and one of the topics I talk about is building your self-esteem. And you have to hear the good stuff all the time. Hear the good stuff all the time. The same way you hear the negative. So it can kind of kick out the bad things, the negatives, and then the good things stay. So what I tell children to do is, I have this activity that I do. I ask them to write 3 positive words about themselves. And you won't believe how hard that is, especially for the young men, to write 3 positive things about themselves. Nothing external. I don't want external. I want what's inside. It's rough. So we talk about that, and we try to work on that. And I tell them, find one word, one positive word about you, something good about you. You write it on a piece of paper and you stick it on the mirror in your room. And every day before you leave the house, and every night before you go to bed, you look at yourself in the mirror, and repeat that word to yourself. You repeat it to yourself. I am loved. I am awesome. I am beautiful. I'm smart. I am fantabulous. I am a good cook. I can write well. I can do poetry. Anything good, positive about yourself, write it down, stick it on the mirror, and repeat it to yourself until you believe it, until it gets stuck in there. And like I said, it's hard to do.
I would like to add to that as someone who actually dealt with that, because growing up, I have received a lot of positive comments from my mother, but at the same time, due to the relationship that we had, it was always kind of really strained.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that she's a wonderful lady, she's an excellent mom. I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for her. But her pain prevented her nurturing. And because of that, I heard a lot of things that brought my esteem down. And then going to school, I would get teased by a few people.
Yeah.
And then going to Dominica, I would get teased from my family members.
Yeah.
It was constantly around. So that negativity was stuck in here.
Yes.
Now I let those comments build who I was.
No, it's not that you let it. You didn't let it. That's who you were. So that's what happened. Because you would not do that to yourself.
Truly.
You wouldn't do it to yourself. But because that's what you kept hearing and that's what was in there, that was you.
Right. So that was my concept of self.
Yes.
And I had to realize that I was allowing other people's pain to become my self-concept.
Yeah.
So therefore I had to learn my own self-concept. Right now, I dress to express myself.
That's right.
I look in the mirror every day and I love what I see every day, regardless of what I hear. According to Queen Jeanette, the mirror work is important to have those positive messages, creating vision boards of how you want to see yourself.
Look at yourself.
Precisely. It took me until I was 27 years old to look at myself truly in the mirror.
Look at yourself.
I'm 32.
It's hard.
It was hard for me to accept the person I was in the mirror because my self-esteem was so low. And that caused so many different breakups in relationships friendships, different things, because that negative self-concept governed my entire being.
Yes.
And I had to identify that.
I was doing a presentation at Camp Ryan a few years ago about domestic violence. And we're talking about different types of domestic abuse. And I asked, it was eighth grade, I asked somebody to give me an example of emotional abuse. I'll never forget that as long as I live. This young man stood up and said, when your mother tell you she should have aborted you. I felt his pain.
Wow.
No, that young man, he had behavioral problems. He was the sweetest kid, but he couldn't stand people telling him what to do. He had behavioral problems, and it all stemmed. Once he told that to me, I realized where his problems came from. It all stemmed from his mother continually telling him I should have aborted.
Yeah, that's rough, for a mother to tell a child that I should have aborted you. He may grow up feeling very unwanted.
Definitely.
So if he's unwanted by his mother, he may not feel wanted by like anyone else.
Right.
Or he might even try to form bonds outside of his mother and father, which could be, if the person is caring, it could be beneficial. But if the person is not caring, it could be dangerous, because they need comfort from someone, and this is where a lot of pedophilia comes in, and so on and so forth. So yeah, and
because people just aren't aware of a better life.
Yep.
To them, this is normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then what you find too in that relationships that women have with brothers, what I found is that 1 out of 3 women have been abused, physically, sexually. They've been abused. So a lot of times they come into the situation like almost like with a lot of things where they need healing. 1 out of 3 women, and that's crazy. So and I was raised with a good mother and father, so of course, we never seen these things in our family. We never, but yeah, that's very sad. I think that sometimes these children who need help and healing, they grow into adults, but they grow into adults with the same triggers that they had as children. And they go into relationships and people don't really understand.
And they become parents.
Right, and they become parents and they pass that energy on to their children. And I could say that firsthand in terms of, my experiences and of course dating and stuff, like, a lot of women been through it. A lot of women been through it.
But in reference to what our sister Damali was asking, what do we do about it?
Right.
Like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, but other than that, say even within a Rasta context, we've been talking about this, and among Rastas, some of the reasoning we had even on this last weekend, or the weekend before, was suggesting that we have to have a support system. So the brothers have to have a support system whereby the brothers can know that they can identify certain brothers within the Rastafari community that they could reason about, reason with about whatever. The sisters also should have a set of elder sisters that they can go to talk to about issues troubling them. So once we have a support system, because everybody, all groups, life is about nurturing, life is about healing. We on earth now to be healed. And go ahead. Yeah.
That's the way to do it. That's a wonderful idea. But we have to be willing to take advantage of the resources that are available. Because sometimes you go there, you try to help people, and they turn you away. They turn you away. So, yes, we have the resources, we provide the resources, we talk about the resources, everybody knows about those resources. You have to be willing to take advantage of that resource. You have to be humble enough to realize I need help. You have to realize that I need help and be willing to find the help. The help is offered. Take it.
I would like to interject there because I'll tell you something. When I realized I had aggression issues, I went for help and they turned me away because I was not court ordered. I spoke to the lady, I said, Miss, I'm going to hurt my children, I'm angry and I don't know why. I'm coming to you and I'm telling you I am angry and I'm going to do something stupid. I need somebody to talk to. And you're telling me I got to be court appointed. So I got to do something stupid first and then I'm going to come to you. That's what you're telling me.
I know.
So you do, I'm not saying it's everybody, but when you do take advantage of the resources, there's still stipulations. And at the same time, embellishing further on what you said, you must be able to recognize first that there is a need for help. Many times we walk around and blaming the other person without realizing same script, different cast. You're in a relationship with somebody, you break up, you end up in another relationship, it's the same thing again, you break up, another person is the same thing again. But who is the common denominator? Self. Yeah. At the end of the day, self is what has to be healed first. Yeah. So in regards to Sister Damali, what anybody needs to do first is deal with the self-mastery. Even if you are in a relationship, speak to your partner, let your partner know, listen, dude, you mean a lot of mess. And I'm trying to clean it up. I am mastering self. So if I don't give you the attention that you do need, understand that I love you, but I love me more. And by loving me more, you're going to love me more because you know more of me.
Right. And I think that boils down to honesty. In my experience, honesty is very important. And, the times when we, us as men, when we're dishonest to women, it really hurts them. I've been through that. I'm sure a lot of men have been through that. We hold back information, we're talking to someone else, and we don't really tell the other person because, we want, 2 or 3 women. And that's just real, we have to be more honest to our women, we have to be a lot more disciplined sexually, and that's just facts, So I think that discipline of self is important because discipline of self gives you the magnetism, like Daddy always speak about, to attract what you need, not what you want. And I think that honesty, as men, we should be more honest with women as to our involvements with other women. We should basically, if we are involved with someone and we know how they feel about that, we should basically have the bravery to speak about it, or basically not get involved with someone who is not looking for that. So in terms of improving the relationship between a man and a woman, I think honesty have a big part to play with it. And, discipline, especially sexual discipline, has a big part to play in bringing joy and bringing that good energy to a relationship. That's what I have learned in my personal lessons as a man. And reverence, when you engage in positive things, when you read together, when you pray together, it creates a bond out of this world. It creates a special connection, I think. One thing I learned with our family growing up with Daddy and Mommy is that we prayed a lot. Daddy always made it his responsibility to engage us in, worship, engage us in sitting down as a family, looking at one another and telling one another that we love each other. As youth, I remember sitting in a circle and my father would start this kind of exercise or this ritual that gave us a soft, it's not easy for a man, especially a young boy, to look at his brother or even his younger sister and tell them that sometimes it is a challenge because we have never been so brought to that soft place You know, masculine patriarchal energy dominates creation. So sometimes for a man to get kind of soft and mushy with his family, and a woman is like, he more wants to be the stalwart, like the protector, versus like the vulnerable one. So being vulnerable as a man, or being more open to that nurturing, loving energy is key, and very, 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 very important for, you know, the improvement of the male and female relationship that we're here talking about.
I just wanted to touch on something that Empress. Yes. She mentioned aggression, and what was really deep is the potential aggression that you had that was there in your relationship with your children. Because we've read articles in the newspapers and magazines or whatever where a mother did something to her child. Sometimes it's sad to say, sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it isn't. But in terms of that mother-child relationship, small story to share with you guys in terms of the mother-child relationship. Now, this could happen the other way around. I taught in DC for about 15 years, and I was teaching in this charter school. Before charter school was a big thing here. Charter school took off like in the Mid-Atlantic in Washington and Maryland. So I was teaching in this independent charter school, somewhat independent African-centered charter school. And there was a student that I had for 2 years. I mean, for 3 years. Good brother, really smart, but he would always come to class late. I mean, you could get every day late, So we was trying to figure out what's going on in the home. Couldn't really like nail it, but he would show up late. And I remember the one time I spoke with his mother, and what she had to say about him being late made me feel bad, because she basically was putting him down, not just putting him down as a son, but like, he can't do anything right, he's never, and I was just like, wow. That's why I said to myself, hearing her, because this was like one of the first times I've ever heard her speak about her child, and this was coming straight from him. Wow. And it made me, it really hit me that day, And then a little bit later, he came to class late, but this time it wasn't just a normal. He was late. Something was wrong. Something was not correct. He was struggling. When I pulled him aside, I had a pretty good rapport with all the students. So I pulled him aside and I said, "What's going on? What's happening?" And he was explaining to me, his face was angry, hurt. He was in tears. The thing and he was up against, he was crouched up against the door, up against the wall. And when I pulled him to when I talked, he couldn't really speak that well. I said, "What's going on? What's wrong?" You know what he told me? He said, "I want to strangle my mother." And I was like, whoa. So him and I.
So he actually wanted to strangle his mother because his mother was bringing him down. But she wasn't aware of the hidden thought that was in his mind.
She may not have been aware, but this is an emotional aggression.
Right.
That is not from parent to child, but from child that will go to parent. There's only so much he's going to take. And we didn't know. We just knew that he would come to class late. But anyway, so upon hearing that even hit me even harder. So I basically pulled him aside and had him and I what we did, we went into this empty classroom that it was an empty gym. And I asked him to tell me a little bit about what was going on. And he was basically saying I just can't take it anymore. She puts me down. And I said, whatever you need to do in here with you and I mean, you can scream, you can yell, you can throw things, there's nothing in here. But I need you to not only just talk to me about it, but get it out. It's really, we need to do this now. So nothing really mattered that day for him in terms of class to me. Because that was life class.
Right.
Because I didn't want to hear, or we didn't want to hear in school that something happened to Star's mother. This is Star. This is who this is the child I taught for like 3 to 4 years. You know, I nurtured them, I cared for them, and when he broke down that day in tears and was sweaty because he walked to school, he came from the train station, wherever it was, but that aggression that would have been potentially very dangerous for both. Oh, this is your mother, this is your queen, you know, but obviously something went awry and had been going awry for a while. So we have to also be mindful of that aggression that goes from parent to child within that relationship, because the child doesn't always stay a child. The child becomes a mother. And what it said that a child that has not been given love, I'm not saying it verbatim, will burn down the village in order to create war.
This is what happens with jail. A lot of brethren who are in jail is because they had a rough upbringing. You know, I mean, I would literally like have sat. I wouldn't say sat down, not every sat, but you also hear stories of brothers who commit crazy crimes when they're teenagers, and then when they reach 35 and they're still in jail, and they think like, you know, when they had time to think, they thought like, wow, like I never had the support from my mom. My mom was always beating me. I know criminals, and they're criminals because they were just abused in the household by their parents or by their step parent or by their grandparents, you know, because especially you see in the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas so small, right? 32 square miles. When you leave your house, especially right now, when you leave your house in St. Thomas, if you don't create for yourself to do something, what is there to do on this island besides going to the beach? Unless you have to be creative in St. Thomas. Right. So I could be a mechanic, but then where can I go to learn mechanics? If I want to, you know, so you probably have to go to a mechanic shop and just start just freelancing. So what is happening is that I feel that anger boils up when there is no outlet. When there's no outlet for reasoning and for talking. I have found that if I keep something inside and I don't talk about it, it just really affects me. So these days, if I have something that's bothering me, I would just speak on it in general because I know that other human beings going through something similar. I know there's other brethren going through something similar, other sisters going through something similar. So I think, you know, our community is our own source of therapy. Should be our source of therapy, because I might be able to say, well, my son, I'm going through a hard day today because blah, 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 blah. You know, me and my girlfriend, me and my wife, me and my queen going through something in his life. You know, you might be like, well, my son, I had needed that because I'm going through something right now. I'm just talking to you, showing me a vibe. And, you know, sometimes if I have found myself, let's say, angry, right? Then if I see someone else in that mode when they're angry, let's say with the, you know, the person that they have in their life, I'll be like, wait, is this the way that I am? You know, is this the way that I react? So sometimes seeing someone else go through it allows me to humble myself, like, nah, that don't seem right, that don't sound right, that don't look right. So whether we know it or not, our situations, our experiences rub off on each other. So it either makes us be more defiant and keeps the ego there, or it helps to change us and it helps us to learn from that experience. So I think it's important for us as African people to express ourselves, to get it out, to speak to each other about our problems. And I feel like, well, if I tell you, you can tell somebody else and you're afraid.
Yeah, but some people don't do that. So the people have to know who they can talk.
Well, that's true too.
So then we have to scrutinize like the source, where we come from. Because every ethnic group which some people will refer to as a tribe, was set up by the elders of the group for nurturing. So that's where you had the shaman, who had the ability to source out the individual's psychological problems. In modern day society, we have the psychologists, we have the psychiatrists, but in our society, there was the shaman, who could speak to the individual about how he can relieve themselves from the trauma that they're going through. Very often, your mother can tell you now, her grandmother used to be the elder in the village of Trafalgar. And if there's a child who was troubled in the village, they would create a circle. They would burn a fire in the middle. And the older people of the tribe would walk around with their stick, walking around that circle, telling the children what they're doing and why they shouldn't be doing it and don't do it again because certain things could happen to them. And the people had absolute respect for her grandmother who played that role. So now, we have to, the men in particular, it's our responsibility to return our people to the land because the land is sacred. And when we return to the land with our agricultural mindset, that is the first healing. Because the ethnic groups of time past, most they did was agriculture. So I'm not saying in this modern world that you should only do agriculture. But that healing has to begin with the men recognizing their role to reorganize and re-educate the population into returning that kind of nurturing consciousness. Say within the Rasta community right now in St. Thomas. We had a beautiful celebration for 3-4 days. Next Sunday, we're going to sit and we're going to decide on our future. What is it that we're going to do? A lot of the brothers out there with locks on their head, they're losing their head. A lot of them bipolar. Should we just allow whoever to just deal with them in the harsh way they've been dealing with them right now? And very often they end up in a grave. What is it that we're going to do? We're just going to allow it to happen? So I'm saying, what is it we have to do is to re-educate ourselves as to really what our children, what our people was all about. The rites of passage is the same role, you know. Okay, my sister here is a Jehovah's Witness. Within the Jehovah's Witness movement, they have elders. How can children lead? We need elders to lead the children. No, the children leading the elders. So now the youngest man on the planet is the leader of the planet. That's why there is confusion. So the same thing with us. We cannot let the young people with guns in their hand be our leader. We have to take over our communities and be the support system for one another. And as we know, no one man knows everything. So you need a community of elders to be that source whereby people could come and reason with. Yes, because the anger is sometimes we don't even know the source, the reason for the anger. You know?
Men should also learn to take up their responsibility. The man is the head of the house. You have 2, 3, 4 children with a woman. Why are you leaving her? You leave her, you leave the children. What kind of business is that? Even if you leave her, those children still belong to you. You still have a responsibility towards those children. You have a responsibility. It's not just the woman. So men have to take up their rightful place. Stop usurping their positions to women. Women were not meant to be leaders of families. Women were meant to be complement to the men. A woman is a complement to a man. The two of them together make a unit. A woman can raise a boy. It's impossible.
Exactly.
It is impossible. A woman cannot raise a man. A man has to raise a man. So men need to come back to their rightful place. Come back to your rightful place. Take responsibility for all of the seed that you're sowing out there. They need you. That's why they're angry. That's why they have the guns. Because where you? I met a young man one time. I used to work at another place, and we had a prison program, right? And it was the return to work program. I met this young man. I was doing the assessment. So I asked him, how many times have you been to jail? 35 times. I was like, don't stop playing. 35 times. Nobody's been to jail 35 times. He tell me, ask my auntie, because I know his auntie. The dude had been to jail 35 times because his mother, from the time he was a little boy, she didn't care about him. Man must eat. Man must eat. So he did what he had to do to eat. And every time they let him out of jail, he needs a nice warm place. He needs some to know where his food is coming from. He does something, goes back to jail. 35 times. Can you imagine that?
Abandonment is a serious issue.
Oh my God.
Sometimes people just leave their children for like other people to raise, and I don't respect that. That's a form of laziness. So being around your children and trying to be there, trying your best to really be there for your children is any golden attribute to anyone in a relationship.
It's a responsibility.
But we first have to realize that as a nation of people, we have been damaged. So once we can realize and get to the root of that damage and take responsibility for that damage, overcome it, do whatever we can to deal with it. Even if it is go to a shaman, go to a therapist, go to somebody to help you unblock some of the energies that you're still holding on to. Whatever is necessary to advocate for your healing, that's what you need to do. Because at the end of the day, you have to be balanced, no matter what anybody else does.
And educate yourself.
Yes.
And we have to educate ourselves. The information is out there. Jeez, Google it.
She's not lying. Just literally today I looked up how to overcome childhood trauma and understanding the symptoms of childhood trauma. And it literally is literate in your adult life if you don't get it dealt with from small. Now imagine if you as a child don't realize that you're traumatized. That's the problem. We don't know. And sometimes we'll get down on the children, we get down on ourselves when we don't know because we're busy trimming every single symptom. But I'm looking at the major problem. It is the childhood trauma because of our overall trauma. We're overall traumatized. We as a people have to take responsibility for the fact that we don't have any roots here, so we have to find a way to cultivate our roots in a land that don't belong to us. And still understand the reason why we are going through this whole thing is because of chasing after vanities and chasing after things that have nothing to do with Black people in the first place. We have always been the chosen of the sovereign, and yet still we spat in his face, and here we are. And thinking, oh, I was just brought here for no reason. You are brought here because you're disobedient in your ass. I hope I could say that there on YouTube. Sorry.
But, yeah, man, this is a great reason in here, man. I feel like male and female relationships have been an issue. We've all gone through what we've gone through, and the question is this: does slavery still affect relationships today? Slavery from those times, hundreds of years ago, up until now. And if so, how has slavery affected the family today? That's really what I would like an explanation.
Slavery does still affect us today because remember, we were torn apart from one another when we were brought here. whatever amount of times they came over on the ships to bring us over, they didn't exactly couple us. So you were not coupled next to your husband. You were not coupled with your children. Abandonment started from there. Then abandonment came and lingered here and found a home here in the psyche of the Black man and woman. Then you're still dealing with the fact that of the, what you call it, the physical abuse that many of us deal with, is the beatings that we dealt with, the beatings that we still turn around and give to our children, is the beatings that we generationally receive. Now we laugh at the white people and say, they don't beat their children. They talk to Becky and somebody say, I hate you, Dad, and shut the door and go to their room. Now I'm not saying that you got to take that crap from Jamal, because you will find your own house Islam in my house. I'm telling you now, but I'm gonna do my best to put my hands on you, because I'm the one perpetuating the violence now. By hitting you, I'm teaching you in order for you to solve your problem, I gotta hit you. I can't communicate with you. Now, as a mother, single mother, you dealing with a youth man, that's a whole different essence. That's a whole different energy by itself. You expect him to behave like a little girl. You want him to calm down. He is not going to be calm. He done already come as a man. This soul number one did not ask you to be here. When you're busy in a doogie, you're up there floating around, just waiting to come and decide at the time when you are doing your thing, I'm ready to be here now. Now you bringing on this being into this world thinking you control this child. And you don't. Your duty is not to control, but to guide. So now when you have been controlled as a parent, and then here you are parenting, that's the same thing you're going to put down. And slavery was always about control. I need to know how to control my slave. So if a man is in a relationship with a woman, I got to try to control her. A woman in a relationship with a man, I got to try to control him, because we're both ego tripping on who's in charge, who's wearing the big drawers up in here. And that's the major debate many of us in relationships having. I want my freedom as a goddess. You want your freedom as a man, but yet I want to hold you down. You want to hold me down. And it's not working, because all we know is hold down. We don't know how to truly give to one another.
So can we allocate insecurity? Can we link that to slavery, or is that completely separate? Is that just on the individual in this time and space? Because insecurity is a major issue that we've had in our relationships as African family. The insecurity aspect.
It is the part of slavery, because remember, we're made to feel inferior. So the insecurity complex came from those times when, as a man, you don't feel validated as a man because you were not taught what it meant to be a man. But you with a woman that thinks she knows what you're supposed to be dealing with, when her image of a man is completely mad.
So sometimes I actually feel too that in this experience, apart from slavery, it's a learned habit. It's a learned habit. We learn it, through being with a partner that's actually insecure, whether we start to experience it from a teenager or just feeling jealous because, again, somehow we don't have what the other person has. There are young men that are with young women, teenagers, 18, 19 years of age, sometimes 20, 21, and they are insecure because as a man, they don't feel like they have that other material asset like the next man, right? And this is prevalent, I feel, in a lot of relationships where young men may feel intimidated by another man because they're not financially stable, or they're not in a position to show as much in a material sense to a woman. All of these things exist. So
you see the individual aspect cannot be separated from the community. So living righteously in a community, or attempting to live as righteously as possible within a community, is very, very crucial. Of course, slavery has an effect on us because everything is based on memory. I can speak today because I know I can put letters together, I can put them together and form words, I can put the words together and form sentences, I can put sentences together and form paragraphs, I can put paragraphs together and form a book. But all of that is based on memory. The memory is conscious and also subconscious, but it has the same effect. So now, as individuals, say within Rasta, as a Rasta man, I cannot see myself expressing myself as truly as a Rasta and not identifying myself with the other Rastas. So in other words, a man is trying to live a life as an outcast. Because in ancient time, there was no jail. If you do something wrong, you were put out of your tribe. And the other tribes around you will not take you because you're not part of the tribe. No, we don't have that experience. Okay, so now, as individuals, we have to recognize the power of the togetherness. It's crucial. That is what spirituality is all about. And say within the Rasta community, the reason for having the Nyabingi sessions is an attempt to erase all the negatives that we have done from the last Bingi session to the current Bingi session. And how you erasing that? So you play the drums, everybody thinking of that beat together, the triangular drums, the fun dedicated and the boom drum. Okay, so everybody in that focusing on that drumming. So everybody mind on the same thing. And then while you're drumming, you're singing the liberation songs. So what the liberation songs do is everybody singing them together, positive things together. And so the sins of the past month is erased by that session. So again, the importance of living within an ethnic movement and recognizing the healing aspects of that movement. So all the negative that you were talking about during the week is erased by you coming together with your other brothers and sisters, singing only positive songs. It's the same concept of a hymn, singing hymns in the church, singing hymns in the synagogue. You see, it is that erasing of that negativeness that we have been involved with since the last Bingi. And this Bingi now does that erasing. But ultimately, the memories of the past is what they call the post-traumatic stress disorder. People stressed out since 9/11. People stressed out since COVID. People stressed out since that most wicked Holocaust bestowed onto Black people 400 and something years ago. The effects of that continues to go from generation to generation. And unless we don't erase it, our problems will continue to be the same. We have to return to the land. We have to return to the concept of the rites of passage. And if you really check out the rites of passage, it's no different than somebody being a good spiritual person. Because you may call yourself different names, but the idea is to live righteously, to live virtuously. And if your community can give you that opportunity, then we going towards solving our problem.
Excellent. This is such a wonderful vibe. You know, we have about anywhere between 5 to 6 minutes left. If there's any questions that those of you that are tuned in would like to ask, you're welcome to ask that question in the live chat. And, you know, so we can bounce back and forth. We are open to basically make this happen. We have 5 more minutes left, but just to seal up the webinar, ultimately, you know, this is my question. Where do we go from here? You know, what do we do next? What do we do from this point forward, according to the way these times are, you know, have worked itself out? What do we do to make things better between man and woman at this time? And if everyone could just give me a minute, 60 seconds to explain what we can do to improve male and female relationships from this point moving forward?
Stop blaming one another. Stop blaming one another for being who you are at this time. Take the time to fully see that we're all beautifully and wonderfully made individually. I do not need you to make me whole. You do not need me to make you whole. But we have decided in our contract with our souls to come together and form this union that is meant to be whatever the sovereign has set it to be. In this time, as man or woman, we have to take every minute to form a prayer routine with ourselves. First and foremost, it is a trinity within the home before you add the children to the trinity. That is the top. Mother, Father, Creator. That's the main trinity that has to be accepted and dealt with in your home. The mother, the father, and the creator. That relationship must be set. Then you can focus on everything else dealing with in your front, whether it's whatever argument you might overcome, because people still have difference in opinion, but it's a matter of compromising, respecting, honoring, being honest, being loyal, loving self. More than anything, it is yourself. And yes, of course, self has to come with honoring the creator naturally, but it is understanding that every day you were in your mother's womb by yourself if you were not a twin. And even if you were a twin, somebody had to come out first. So it's still you. And it all begins with the self. The way you think about yourself, the way you talk about yourself, the way you think about your relationship with other people, you have to deal with your garbage. Put it out. Nobody else can put it out.
Nice.
Yeah,
Great,
we have to make up our mind to love the woman that we have with, and to know that the offspring of that love is angelic. So we make a little angel. But a man and a woman should have plans together. Don't just live in a wishy-washy way. Because as you plan a project, that's where the virtues come. You learn to be humble. You learn to be kind. You learn to be patient. You learn not to overuse the money. So you learn to be moderate. You learn to be temperate. So you don't get to be angry quick. Sometimes, as my sister Jeanette said a little earlier on, sometimes we just have to take a walk. Sometimes we have to take a deep breath. So the journey is internal. We go internal. So if all of us go internal and recognize the God that dwells in us, we would be in a good shape. But let us assist each other. Let us realize that it's about true forgiveness. Be able to tell somebody you're sorry if you're sorry. But speak out the problems you feel on the inside and seek for your brothers and sisters. We have a responsibility to recreate our community.
Final steps. Okay. We have to continue having forums like this. We really have to continue having these forums. And those of you who are listening, take what you've heard, take what you've learned, go teach somebody else. Each one, teach one. Remember, nobody's responsible for your happiness but you. So please don't put it on anybody else to make you happy. Open communication with your partner, honesty, trust, respect, mutual respect. Mr., respect her. Ma'am, respect him. Okay? You must have respect for any relationship to be healthy. Remember your children. Take care of your children. They are your children. They're not your mothers. They're not your grandmothers. They're yours. They're your responsibility, not anybody else's. And daddy, get out from whatever hole you in and come be a father. Go be a father to your child. Hold your child's hand. Teach your child. Play with your child. Take your child to the beach. Teach your child how to ride a bike. It is your responsibility, not anybody else's.
Final steps to making male and relationships.
I'd like to add, definitely trust and support. Trust each other, but you have to, I think the trust starts with trusting yourself. Trusting yourself to know that you want to actively and bring something worthy to the table in terms of the relationship so that it can work, to give it that opportunity. If you're not trusting yourself, if anyone doesn't trust themselves to do in any capacity, things are not going to work, whether or not it's in a family relationship, a romantic relationship, a work relationship, trust. And in so trusting yourself, you trust your partner, let's say in a man and woman dynamics, you trust your partner, even when you feel that you have a difference of opinion. And having a difference of opinion makes that person expresses that person's independence. And having a difference of opinion, at the end of the day, with that in mind, like I said before, I'd rather be happy than right, because you don't want to have that deteriorate into something within a relationship that spirals negatively. Supporting each other would come because you have that love, respect, and honor for your better half. Support that person in what they do. Communicate with them, he or she, in what they're doing in order to create a whole relationship. Basically, that's just it. Really, the trust and support are really important. Just to make it turn.
Let me add to that, just as a final note. I think that spiritual reverence and coming together and praying together as a family and trying your best to implement those the things you pray for, which are the principles. Reminding your family about the principles of Ma'at. I feel that for my lesson, being emotionally in control. That's one thing that I really always try to put at the forefront. How do I control my emotions? How do I make sure that I'm grounded? Life has taught all of us. We are here discussing all of these wonderful things in hopes that we may improve upon, male and female relationships, and give thanks and praise, for, the Total Ital Part 6. It's been a fabulous time, with Empress Omega, Ras Bobby, Empress Janet, Sister Janet, and also Brother Gary. We give thanks for having such a wonderful discussion about male and female relationships and how we can improve them, especially in the African family. We give thanks We give thanks for those of you tuning in, and just to seal up things, I'm going to ask my sister in here if she is open to saying a prayer, or if one of the sisters are open to actually saying a prayer, or Queen Omega. Let's actually bless up the place. Yeah, man.
Oh, no.
Okay, so she's a little shy right now. So Empress Omega is going to go ahead and really seal up this webinar, our Total Ital Part 6, with a prayer, and then we'll be done with the stream.
Together and discussing something that is pertinent to bring your kingdom to the once again. We thank you so much for the information that was disseminated on this platform to be able to reach millions of people that can assist them with this milestone that they may need to overcome in their life. We thank you for the life, health, and strength that you have given all of us and the experiences that we all have received so that we can share this pertinent information to heal others as we are healing ourselves. In your all-powerful and omnipotent name we pray.
Rastafari. So give thanks everyone for tuning in. This is another Total Ital Part 6, and we shall have our next Total Ital on August 24th. Please stay tuned for Total Ital Part 7 on August 24th, 2020. This is Nayora with yours truly, Sister Omega, Ras Bobby, Sister Janet, Brother Gary, and we just spoke about male and female relationships and ways we can improve. Please stay tuned on Nayora TV. Also, we have Ras Bobby Herbal Products. Just keep on supporting, the energy and Would you like to leave the information for your domestic?
Okay. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Family Resource Center. It is an agency, it's a service provider for victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. All the services provided by Family Resource Center, they're all free. They also have a hotline. It's 340-776 SAFE. I think I'm right. Yes.
340-776 SAFE.
SAFE SAFE.
So whichever number corresponds to the letter, you're welcome to do that. And that's the hotline for the Family Resource Center.
That's the hotline for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault.
Okay.
I also work for, I got to put a plug in for the agency that I work for. It's Virgin Islands Domestic Violence and Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Council. We are not a provider. What we do is educate. We educate, we advocate, and we try to get legislation passed to help victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. If you want a presentation done, you can call, I'll give you my cell number. It's 340-643-3028. That's 340-643-3028. My name is Jeanette John Baptist. Thank you.
Well, give thanks and praise, here we are, and thank you so much for tuning in. Again, this is Total Ital, this is Nayora, along with such a wonderful panel, and hope to see you again on this YouTube channel, Nayora TV, streaming live on August 24th with our Total Ital Part 7. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for all the comments, and for those of you that tuned in, thank you for the live chat. See you at another time. One love, blessings, Rastafari.
Yeah.